News 18 Network.
Hello and a very warm welcome to Singapore Reimagine Global Conversations Shaping the Future of Travel. The resumption of international travel and reopening of borders has picked up momentum and brought hope and optimism to the tourism industry, which, by the way, accounts for about 10% of world GDP. Singapore has taken progressive steps towards reimagining a new standard of travel by actively working towards transforming its travel industry to embrace a more sustainable future, building green into infrastructure, education, and business, and meeting the needs of a changing demography of travelers who are looking to not only experience destinations, but to contribute to them. We have brought together business leaders, change makers, and explorers from India and Singapore at this Singapore Reimagine Global Conversations Shaping the Future of Travel to lend their expert views. And to talk more on Singapore's plans to shape the future of travel industry and deliver this evening's welcome address, please put your hands together for GB Sridhar, Region Director, India, Middle East, South Asia, and Africa of Singapore Tourism Board.
Singapore Reimagine Global Conversations is a key part of the STB's Singapore Reimagine Recovery Initiative, which was launched last year to affirm the destination's commitment to shape a new standard for travel through safety, technology, experiences, and sustainability. The theme of the conversations this evening is Shaping the Future of Travel, which is timely as the needs and expectations of travelers are changing significantly in a COVID-endemic world. As borders reopen around the world, the tourism and related industries must work together to reimagine what the new travel experience can and will be. Innovate and develop solutions to meet the evolving consumer demands. The Singapore Reimagine Global Conversation seeks to stimulate engaging and insightful discussions on how we can all collectively reshape the future of travel and stimulate recovery in the wake of COVID-19 and beyond. Let me briefly touch on Singapore's tourism recovery. It has taken shape since early this year, and the results have been encouraging. Singapore introduced the Vaccinated Travel Framework in April, and with Singapore very much open to near pre-COVID levels and welcoming fully vaccinated travelers, I am glad to inform you that year to date, India is our second largest visitor arrival source market. Up to 30th of July, we have welcomed 2.85 lakh visitors from India to Singapore. We are seeing a sustained trend of visitors across the family, young adults, cruise, leisure, and business travel segments. This is only possible with the unwavering support from our travel trade, corporates, sending meetings and incentive groups, media, content, and marketing partners from both India and Singapore. We are thankful to all and seek to work closely with them to bring even more visitors to Singapore. Thank you very much.
Today, to understand the new travelers a bit better, deep dive into the world of millennial, Gen Z, travel planning, and more importantly, decode the generation as a whole, because that's a big question mark. What exactly is this generation? What do they want? I have with me quite a panel, I'll be very honest, because I mean, you have on the one end, you have Fong Fu Wei, who's the head of national tourism, as well as destination marketing organization partnerships at Southeast Asia and Oceania, Klook. Again, to my left, we have Suchita Salwan, founder and CEO of Little Black Book. Then we have Varsha Patra, who's the co-founder, CEO of Homegrown. Same for Homegrown. You got to know it if you are a millennial Gen Z, or if you're looking at targeting at the millennial Gen Z crowd as well. And to my right is Abraham Alapet, who's the president and group head, marketing, service quality, innovation, more importantly, value-added services at Thomas Cook India Group. He'll play as the bridge between the old world traveler as well as the new world traveler from his vantage point. Thanks a lot, gentlemen and ladies, for joining us here on this panel. The first thing that everyone has on their mind when we talk about decoding the new age traveler, what exactly does he or she want, etc., it starts with trying to decode the new age person, so to say. I mean, once you try and understand who these people are, what is it they want, and how do you define these people, it's probably then easier to define what they want when they travel. How would you define and decode these people? I mean, we start with Fong.
Well, I would some define it by age group, right? The ones born between the early 80s to early 2000s, between the ages of 18 to 35. I think that's one way to define it. But I think beyond that, the new age traveler is also based on his or her behaviors in terms of how connected he is digitally, how involved he is with being able to travel as well, and his or her inner desires in relation to travel. So I think besides defining it in terms of his or her demographics, it's also important to look in deeper into his or her psychographics and his or her desires in terms of how he travels. So that's how I would perhaps define the new age traveler.
What about you? How would you define a new age traveler?
At large, it's not for me. It's not so much about a demographic rather than a psychographic in how you think. And my mother is a new age traveler because she's progressive. She wants to experience and immerse herself in cultures and communities. She doesn't want a checklist on just the nightlife or the food at this place, or I have gone to a specific tourist destination. They want to immerse themselves in cultures. And I think the starting point really is to look at who this new age person is. It's someone who doesn't want to be confined and it's not pigeonholed to say, this is my identity. These are my only likes. They have varied passion points. Their identities are fluid. And I think they look for travel experiences that really feed into those passion points and feed into those identities and experience that they crave. So for me, that's really how I would look and define a new age traveler.
A Thomas Cook standpoint, you've been giving tour packages, standard ones, etc. From there to now, do you think things have changed, and how do you define what the new customer of Thomas Cook wants?
I think it's really not about the age, it's about the mindset. It's about how old or young they think they are. And this is really, to my mind, if you sort of break it up, the two manifestations that you see. And it's important for us because this context is about the economic end of travel, right? So I think there are two parts to it. One is the behavioral aspects of thinking you are a certain age and therefore that's the kind of thing that drives you. And two is what you do as a result from an economic standpoint. I think what we're seeing and increasingly more of in a country like India especially, where you've got 450, 440 odd million, 34% of the population theoretically millennials, this is no longer a niche segment. This is mainstay, right? And this is where the economic power is already. This is not about the future. This is about now. So this is where the money is, and I think therefore this conversation is relevant. From an economic standpoint, I think the way they differ from the previous generation, which is the baby boomers and some of us, including me on this dais, is really in the fact that they are living for the moment, right? They are coming into a world of plenty. The parents saved for them to educate them and so on. It was about building a house and buying a car and stuff like that. This generation is born into plenty. They are thinking about now, consumption now, sharing now, growth now, experience now. And I think that's really the terrific opportunity. What we're seeing now, especially post-pandemic, is the whole shift into mono destinations, bigger depth, more experience-led. So I think we're clearly seeing that shift, and I think that is visible from the way they buy, which is more online, the kind of experiences they seek, and the customization and experiential fulfillment they seek from travel.
30 months of absolutely absolute disruption in the world, so to say, and thereafter travel has resumed. And how most of these travel companies have seen their revenues, footfalls, etc., go back to pre-pandemic levels. And in that, what do you think have been the major trend changes that you've noticed over the last couple of years? Are the millennial Gen Z guys spending a lot more now, and the non-millennial traditional people spending a lot more again because the pandemic has made everyone believe that YOLO?
Well, I would firstly say that for Klook, as our platform, more than 70% of our 30 million monthly traffic to our platform are new age travelers. So to Klook, understanding the new age traveler is of fundamental critical importance to our company. And I have to say that the pandemic has definitely resulted in quite a profound shift in consumer millennial traveler behaviors and preferences. I think there are probably about 3 to 4 key trends that I've seen, that based on our observations that we have seen. The first key emerging trend of the millennial traveler, the new age traveler, is actually very closely related to what Abraham had just mentioned. It's the increasing prevalence of what some might call wellness travel, mindfulness travel, rejuvenation travel, these buzzwords. And what this is translating into the behaviors of millennial travelers is, while they are still very much interested in ticking off the bucket list, the popular must-dos in the destination, more and more, they are also seeking for the interesting, the off-the-beaten experiences, the more unique, unknown experiences. So for example, this may come in the form of nature, wildlife, adventure, or it could also come in the form perhaps of connecting with the local communities, the local cultures. Second is we also see the emergence and increasing demand for private transport options in millennial travelers. This is probably due to and I think this is not just for millennial travelers, it's probably for most travel segments, and this is probably due to the increasing need and consciousness of safety and hygiene. Third, it reminds me quite recently is that millennial travelers are a bit more risk open. They're open to risk, they're open to living in the moment, they are open and a bit more impulsive with their purchases. And what this has translated is that we see the emergence of, in the recent years, buy now, pay later schemes. Buy now, pay later schemes. And I think for any brand out there that's hoping to reach out to the new age traveler, you have to consider partnerships with payment options that provide you with buy now, pay later schemes.
From your own personal experience, I mean, what is it that can influence, or what are the factors that determine you deciding on a certain place? Can you tell us about a travel experience that you seek as a person?
I think with travel always takes cues from micro trends. And if you look at global micro trends, whether it's India or the US or anywhere else, one thing that's on the rise is this whole concept of local brands or emerging brands or direct-to-consumer brands, right? I don't know if you saw this, but for the first time ever on Kaun Banega Crorepati, one of the questions that was asked by
Boat.
Amitabh Bachchan was about boat, and you're seeing this interest in what makes local or emerging brands unique. In fact, when we had worked with Singapore Tourism Board last year, I myself didn't know the number of phenomenal local brands that exist in Singapore, because you assume the food scene is great, but then you dig into the design scene and you see these plethora of absolutely amazing brands. And I think that's where local brands, emerging brands, direct-to-consumer brands, whatever you may want to call them, I think those are really going to be here to stay for the next 5 to 7 years. And I'm not saying that just from a place of bias, because that's, to answer your question specifically, that's how I like to travel, right? I love to go to a place and see what the local boutiques are like, or, what the local eating joints are like, or the local bazaars are like, so on and so forth. But it is in that very specific micro trend that I do see a large global travel trend also coming together.
That, I think, has been quite a fulfilling conversation that we've had with these guys, and I have only to thank the wonderful people that are there on this panel. Thank you.
Singapore Tourism Board presents Singapore Reimagine Global